Welcome to the second episode in a Legendarium series about the life and reign of King William II of England. In part 1, we talked about how the Norman conquest of England made Duke William and then his son, also named William, the King of England. In part 2, we will talk about how the sons of William the Conqueror divided his realms between them. King William Rufus, who inherited England, the greatest prize, faced multiple threats to his crown. They included rebel barons, the Scots, and even members of his own family. After the death of King William the Conqueror in 1087, his oldest son, Robert Curthose, became Duke of Normandy. His second son, William Rufus, became King of England, and his third son, Henry Beauclerc, used an inheritance of 5,000 silver pieces to purchase estates in western Normandy. King William Rufus was a tough, battle-hardened soldier, yet his early days seemed to promise good government for England. His old teacher, the revered clergyman Lanfranc, served as his right-hand man, but on the condition that William be a fair ruler to the English. At first, King William II seemed to take Lanfranc's advice. He gave generously to churches, paid monks to pray for his father's soul, and promised to lower taxes on his English subjects. Yet the good times were not to last. The Norman lords who helped William the Conqueror seize England held estates on both sides of the Channel. What would happen if King William and Duke Robert went to war? These nobles wanted to simplify their lives and secure their estates by having only one master, and they preferred Duke Robert of Normandy, a weakling whom they thought they could easily control. A man named Odo of Bayeux, uncle to both King William of England and Duke Robert of Normandy, organized the rebel lords in England. They included some of the most powerful men in the country, such as Robert of Mortain and Richard Fitzgilbert. The rebels readied for war by stocking their castles with provisions and raising armies. Yet the rebels' plans suffered a serious setback when Duke Robert, whom they wanted to put on the throne of England, couldn't even be bothered to show up. Meanwhile, Lanfranc toured the Kingdom of England, delivering sermons in which he proclaimed William II to be the only lawful King of England and those who fought against him to be outlaws. Meanwhile, William II promised rich rewards to nobles who supported him. He even appealed to the English peasants, promising to cut their taxes if he remained on the throne. Soon, the rebels found few allies and fewer recruits. Loyal barons laid siege to rebel-held castles across England. By 1089, King William II had crushed the revolt and sent most of its leaders back to Normandy in exile, including his own uncle Odo of Bayeux, who had organized the rebellion. These early years seem to indicate that William wanted to bring a better, more merciful government to England. Yet in 1089, William's old teacher Lanfranc died and took any moderating influence in William's court with him. Since Lanfranc had been Archbishop of Canterbury and held vast estates and revenues, King William decided not to appoint a new Archbishop of Canterbury and instead seized the Archbishop's estates and revenues for himself. He even chased Anselm, a church scholar favored to be Lanfranc's successor, out of England. And on top of that, he raised taxes after promising to lower them. After all, King William had a war to finance against his youngest brother, Henry Beauclerc. In February 1091, William Rufus landed in Normandy, allied with his older brother Duke Robert, and marched against Henry Beauclerc's stronghold, the mountaintop abbey of Mont Saint-Michel. After a 2-month siege, during which Henry depleted his water supplies, the youngest of the 3 brothers surrendered and left Normandy, at least for a time. Yet in King William's absence, King Malcolm of Scotland invaded the north of England, hoping to snatch the provinces of Cumbria and Northumbria. Joined by his brother Robert, King William II hurried home to England and drove King Malcolm back home to Scotland. To hold the north, King William installed one of the 1088 rebels, Robert de Mowbray, as keeper of the north. Mowbray was determined to redeem himself, and he did so at the Battle of Alnwick. There he killed both Malcolm and his heir, leaving Scotland in a state of civil war. Everything looked pretty fine for King William II. Then, in 1093, he suddenly fell gravely ill. King William II believed his sickness to be divine punishment for his rough treatment of the church. Terrified and fearing for his immortal soul, he called Anselm back from exile to hear his confession. And when William unexpectedly recovered from his sickness, he appointed Anselm the Archbishop of Canterbury, a post left vacant for 4 years so William could snatch up its revenues. King William even restored church lands that he seized. Will this return to good government last? We will find out in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this installment of the Legendarium. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.